The final betrayal of a redneck? The humid air of Benishek felt heavy yesterday. Not with rain, but with the silence of a trap. Brigadier General Oseni Braimah stood in the center of the 29 Task Force Brigade's perimeter, his thumb tracing the jagged edge of a radio that hadn't caught a clear signal in 3 days. He had surely sent 5 memos to Abuja in a month. He'd asked for the T-72 tanks promised in the quarterly budget and the thermal optics needed to see through the encroaching Sahel dust. After all, the general in his youth was trained in the annals of Red House, aka Octopus House, where being on point was a religion. Sharp thinking was necessary to survive, and being resourceful was mandatory. But alas, the replies from the high command via the buffoons in the villa were always the same. Resources are being deployed. Maintain your position. But Braimah knew where the resources were. He had seen the photos of the new mansions in Lakeview, Abuja, owned by men who had never heard a shot fired in anger. He knew the superior firepower touted in the morning press releases was sitting in a shipping container in Lagos, held up by a kickback dispute between greedy, politically inclined morons and the compromised analog generals who have become their partners in crime and corruption. "General?" his adjutant whispered, pointing toward the tree line. "The scouts didn't return." How could they have returned? They had already been betrayed by some rehabilitated sons and daughters of Satan, with the blessing of the NSA and his clowns in control of the nation's security apparatus a long time ago. Braimah reached for his rifle. It was a decades-old weapon, the ubiquitous AK-47, its barrel worn smooth. He knew the political will to end this war didn't exist. A forever war was too profitable for the men, Agbayas, in flowing Agbadas, multi-million naira watches, and their paramilitary gang members in well-starched khakis who the general answered to. If the insurgency died, the security votes, those unvetted billions, would vanish. After all, the dirty, stinky, drug-addled vermin known as Boko Haram are the prodigal sons of some of the hierarchy as well as the politicians. These boys are cash in the bank as it is, and so must be protected and supplied more than the military itself. Then, the darkness erupted. The terrorists didn't come with swords. They came with brand new technicals and night vision goggles, gear better than anything Braimah's men possessed. "I'm the General." Braimah sprinted toward the front trench, shouting orders drowned out by the screams of boys holding jammed rifles. He grabbed a light machine gun from a fallen soldier. After 3 bursts, it seized. Procurement officers had purchased refurbished ammunition that was decades-old surplus dressed up for resale. "Request air support!" he roared over the thunder of RPGs. "Jets are grounded in Maiduguri, sir!" The comms officer screamed back, tears cutting clean lines through the dust on his face. "No fuel budget cleared for night sorties!" Braimah looked up. The sky was vast and empty. No jets, no drones, nothing. It wasn't the enemy that had defeated him. It was the ink on diverted contracts and the shrugs of men in air-conditioned boardrooms 1,000 miles away. He stood tall, a silhouette of pure defiance against the muzzle flashes. A lion led by sheep, a guardian sold for a percentage. As the perimeter collapsed around him, he didn't retreat. He fired his sidearm until the slide locked back on empty. The base had become scorched earth. Bodies strewn across each other, blood and dust merging with shrapnel and spent casings. Islamic battle chants growing closer by the second. The last thing Oseni Braimah felt wasn't the bullet. It was the cold weight of a betrayal that began 1,000 miles away, in an air-conditioned villa suite and a freezing MOD office. The thought of his wife and children drove him toward the last remaining MRAP. One final chance to save himself and his wounded. To fight another day for citizens sleeping safely under their covers. It wasn't meant to be. "Oga, the MRAP has no fuel. The engine is faulty." What government sends its finest soldiers to die in logistical nightmares? The Nigerian government. Better to make sitting ducks of the brightest and bravest in Borno, as long as the allowances can be exchanged in Zone 4 for dollars. But never for cents. The next morning, DHQ released a statement praising his heroism and the successful repelling of the attack. The Abuja mansions stayed quiet, their walls thick enough to drown out the desert wind and any official scrutiny. The man from Bordillion would fly into Maiduguri for his customary 10-minute performance. The recycled speech, the photo op with the grieving widow and children, the hollow promise to crush the bandits. Typical. To the system that sacrificed him, his blood is on your hands. To Ledoux, the tallest. Omo B, the general. Travel well, brothers. I will see you when it is my turn. Rest in peace. Salute.